Good morning. How is everybody? We are back with our treasure hunters. We are now on chapter 15. So let's get started. Uncle Richie suggested we stroll over to Dupont Circle to catch a cab to our apartment. I'd like to stop by the second story books, he said. It's only a 2-minute walk from here. They have a marvelous collection of rare and out-of-print books. I might be able to locate a gently used copy of Miller's epic poem. Research for the expedition. Eh? So once again, we tried to keep up with Uncle Richie. He was so unusually athletic and spry for a guy in his 70s. Second Story Books had a series of rolling bookcases set up on the sidewalk in front of their shop. Browsers were searching the shelves, readers lost in their own treasure hunts. It'll only be a moment, said Uncle Richie. Can I search with you? Asked Storm. Why, I'd be delighted for the company. They headed into the bookshop. I want to see if they have any rare sailing books, said Tommy. He went in to browse too, leaving Beck and me on the sidewalk with the bargain hunters, pawing through the books lined up on the rolling carts. I recognized one of the shoppers because the sun was reflecting off of his bald dome. Yep, it was Professor Hingelbert, the stuffy guy who gave Mom and Dad grief when we were running around like wild things on our quest to find the Hope Diamond. Did you hear? Dr. Hingelbert said to the man and woman browsing with him. The kids are in town. Annoying grown-up alert. Nobody do anything fun. There's the picture that is on the next page. I'm trying to see what's going on. Who are the kids? Asked the man. Oh, you know, Doctors Thomas and Susan Kidd, the treasure hunters who gallivant about the globe with their children looking for lost treasures while simultaneously fighting to protect the environment. Oh, yes, said the lady, looking down her nose. I have heard about them. Aren't they doing something at the Smithsonian? Yes, said Dr. Hingelbert, an exhibit about their discoveries in Peru. Well, that's a hoax, said the lady. They claim they found it, said Dr. Hingelbert. That's hard for me to say, with a dismissive shrug. I suppose the Smithsonian will let anybody say whatever they want as long as it sells tickets. I looked at Beck. She looked at me. Both of us were clenching our fists and grinding our teeth. It's another twin thing. Somebody talks trash about our family, we get mad. Of course, you know whom Mrs. Kidd is related to, sniffed Hingelbert. Whom? The infamous Richie Papi Lucio. He's her uncle. That old fool, said the lady. The same. Remember, a dozen years ago, when that museum in Sydney gave him back all the treasure he originally claimed came from the 1622 shipwreck off the coast of Australia? Said the man. Richie Lucio recanted the entire tale, admitted, totally made up. How could I forget that? Said Dr. Hingelbert, snorting merrily. Beck and I were about to march over and give those two snooty Washingtonians a piece of our mind. But that's when Tommy, Storm, and Uncle Richie came out of the bookstore with their purchases. Well, speak of the devil, said Professor Hingelbert. who had just seen and recognized Uncle Richie. Off on another grand treasure hunt, Poppy? Perhaps, Henry, said Uncle Richie. Perhaps. Will you give it all back again? He asked the lady, and then they both started tittering and giggling. Come on, Uncle Richie, I said, running over and grabbing his hand while Beck grabbed the other. Let's go home and eat some of that ice cream you bought. Yeah, said Beck, and we pulled away from those snickering snobs as quickly as we could. But I glanced up and caught a glimpse of his face. That was the first time I had seen Uncle Richie look sad. I also hoped it was the last. Chapter 16. Mom and Dad were home when we returned to the apartment. We're going to eat ice cream, I announced. Chunky Monkey, Rocky Road. I said the flavors as boisterously as Uncle Richie had announced them when we walked through the door. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's pretty windy outside. Yeah, that's coming through the window, and the window's closed. So sorry, I got a little distracted. But he still wasn't smiling. Thomas, Susan, good to see you. Uncle Richie sounded like a weary old man that he could have been. Your children are a joy and a delight. It was grand spending time with them. Thanks so much, Uncle Richie, said Mom. Are you free tomorrow? Asked Dad. Unfortunately, no. You see, Thomas, I am setting off on a new expedition. He thumped the hardcover of the antique book he had just bought. I will be searching for the lost ship of the desert. I have a few promising leads. Very promising indeed. They're solid? Asked Dad. As solid as any I've ever followed. Mom nodded politely when he said that. Well, good, Uncle Richie. Good. Flying off to California tomorrow, I'll be touching down at a secluded airstrip I know of near the Salton Sea, not far from San Diego, as the crow flies. I've made preliminary arrangements with a local excavating company to borrow a backhoe and a bulldozer. Might need to dig my way through several hundred years of sand. Do you have any money to finance your expedition? Asked Dad. I am in the process of securing funds, he said. That sounded like he was off on another card game. Can we find the buried treasure with you? Asked Tommy. I mean, Mom and Dad are going to be busy. We're going to be bored. It would be an honor to excavate sand alongside you, sir, said Storm. I mean, Uncle Richie. I'd love to have you along, Thomas. You too, Storm. I want to go, I said. Bully for you, Bick. Bully. Well, we could finance the trip, said Mom. We'd be happy to do that, added Dad. I've been curious about the legendary lost ship of the desert for quite some time. Beck was the only one in the room not saying anything. Well, said Uncle Richie, who had to notice Beck's silence. It was hard not to. Talk it over amongst yourselves. I'd love to have you children along for the ride. It would prove to be a marvelous expedition, I'm sure. I hope to be wheels up at 900 hours. Please let me know ASAP if you will be joining me on this quest. Life is a grand adventure, children. Accept it in such a spirit, and it doesn't matter what the naysayers buying bargain books along the boulevard might blather about you. Uncle Richie had bucked himself back up. He tipped his hat and he strode triumphantly out the door. The instant he was gone, I turned to Beck. Can we have the room? I said to everybody else. Of course, said Mom. She, Dad, Storm, and Tommy went off to the kitchen to start scooping ice cream. They knew what was brewing. Uh-oh. There we go. Twin fight. Do you have a problem, Rebecca? I shouted. Of course I do. You're my brother. I meant about Uncle Richie. Oh, he's full of hot air. So are balloons. And they can take you places you've never even been before. They can also burst in midair and leave you stranded in the desert. Oh, so you're afraid? I said. You heard Professor Hingelbert, and he said Uncle Richie is a phony and a fraud. Ha! Talk about hot air. Hingelbert has so much he scorched off his own hair. That's why he's bald. Well, I know. How dare he talk about our family like that? We're the kids. So is Uncle Richie. No, actually, he's a Lucio, like Mom used to be. He is still family, though. Right. Good catch, Vic. Thanks, Beck. All for one and one for all. You're right. So what are we doing yelling at each other? I have absolutely no idea, especially since we need to start packing. Beck nodded. 900 hours is early. Oh, I know. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning because yeah, good point. Thank you. I turned to the kitchen. Hey, you guys, we need to load up our gear. Hurry up, finish your dessert. We're going to the desert with Uncle Richie. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to find out what happens. Uncle Richie's taking the kids to an adventure, an all-American adventure. So, hope you join tomorrow as we continue on chapter 17 and 18. See you guys.